So I'm the director of esports at Utica, and depending on what your job title is, when you get hired as a director, you could be, operating the same way as traditional athletics would, and that's kind of how I see myself. Everything the director of athletics would do, I do here under esports. Yeah, so something that I feel more programs should be doing is increasing the level of seriousness that they're taking their varsity program. And as a club, there is really minimal levels of seriousness. People are there to have fun. They're not necessarily there to compete and win national titles and, look at it like a sport. But as a varsity program, my entire goal is to make this a sport, because at the end of the day, like all of the characteristics that make a traditional sport a sport, they're the same thing in esports. The only difference is you're not getting up and like tackling somebody with pads on or throwing a ball at them or whatever. But, everything else is the same. Everybody's goal should be to ideally see esports one day in something like the NCAA, right? And we're not going to get there if this isn't being treated as a sport. So I'm obviously an Army veteran. So when it comes to accountability, it's just something that's ingrained into my head. And you can ask people in my program, like if they aren't accountable about something, and I find out, I let them know, like, hey, you could have done better, or this or that, or whatever the case is. I make it known, like, okay, next time we're going to do better. Because it just has to operate that way. It has to be that way. If it's not, then we shouldn't be allowed to call esports a sport. Yeah, I definitely have increased expectations for our team captains. I kind of put a little bit of the weight on them in terms of scheduling, keeping up with the team, and even outside of the game too. So something that I'm implementing this year with the program is I'm telling the captains that I want at least once every 2 weeks minimum to kind of have like a team day outside of the esports room. So whether they're going out to eat together, or they're going to bowling together, or whatever the case is, we're implementing that into the program, and that is going to be the responsibility of the captain to make sure things like that are happening. And my captains typically have a traditional sports background, ironically enough, so they understand that side of things. Going back to that stigma, a lot of people look at esports as people who don't work out, people who aren't taking care of themselves, are drinking Mountain Dew, staying up all night, not sleeping. But honestly, that is the worst thing you could do as a competitive esports athlete. So, I hate to keep going back to traditional sports, but I mean, they quite literally work out every day, because they're going to perform better when they're physically healthy, when they're physically fit. The same exact thing applies in esports. When you feel physically healthy, when you feel mentally healthy, you are going to be inside of that server, in that game, wherever you are, and you're going to feel better. When you feel better, you play better, you compete better. And so this is where like Fit Gamer is going to change the entire industry one day. And I say that because, once high schools start getting a hold of this, and this starts happening at the high school level and then at the college level, they're already going to be prepared at the professional level. But it's a developing habits type thing. You have to start young, and it's not something, like you said, you can do overnight. It's something you can work gradually towards, but nobody, unless they're absolutely crazy, just wakes up one day and they're like, you know what? I'm a totally different person. I had a spine surgery in 2019 on my neck and my cervical spine. And that like completely flipped my life almost upside down. I put on a lot of weight after surgery, and honest to God, like I think that really is what made me understand the importance. Essentially, I felt worse than I'd ever felt in my entire life. And I couldn't really blame it on the fact that, my spine was hurt anymore. It was just my habits. I had lost my discipline for a little while. I'd lost the habits that I had developed my whole life. And I kind of was just doing everything the complete opposite of what I once was. And all of the mental and physical changes that I felt, I woke up every single day feeling horrible. I would just feel horrible, like all across the board. I could sit here and tell you for hours, like I quite literally felt like I was dying, like every single day, just because of how bad my metabolic health was. And yeah, I kind of just got tired of it. And I kind of just was like, man, I've made these excuses for so long, but really I know what I have to do. So I just need to go back to doing it. So like I said earlier, I would love to see esports in the NCAA one day, if that can happen. That is what I would like to see. And I think the NCAA, or some kind of organization that operates like them, having that foundation and that support can change somebody coming to a college to play video games to making it, a career. And that does happen already in esports. But I think with the backing of something like the NCAA, we're going to watch people go to school for esports and stay in esports until they retire. And I mean, that really is kind of like what I am trying to do here at Utica. We have federal work study programs here. Students can learn to shoutcast here, to broadcast, produce here. They can be my student assistant. They can be a graphic designer, a video editor, social media manager. We have outlets for people to get experience to quite literally put on their resume for the esports industry. But also just like the fit gamer thing and the seriousness thing. I want Utica to be a template for other institutions. I want us to show like, hey, this does work.
Well played.